We're here today with our friend Susan Piver, and initially it's a chance for Susan to kind of introduce herself to the BetterListen WisdomFeed community. So Susan, who are you?
Yeah, I am a writer and a meditation teacher and a Buddhist teacher. I have written 9 books. I have an online community called the Open Heart Project, which has close to 20,000 members all over the world. As far as I know, Steve, I could be wrong. I think it's the biggest virtual mindfulness community in the world. May also be the only one, but it's one or both of those.
That's a statement. That's amazing. And
I know.
I remember when you started it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you think people keep showing up?
I think there's a real need for something like this, that there are so many people who want to learn to meditate. And like everyone, I'm sure you and I can both relate to this, we don't just need to learn how to meditate, we need support to continue our meditation practice. And there's many, many more people who want to do that than have access to a meditation center or a meditation teacher. You know, most people don't live near a Zen center or an insight meditation center or something. So, or they do, but they have 4 children and 3 jobs. And, I just think that there's a need for something like this.
So why would you say you got started doing this in the first place?
I was teaching a retreat in person. And at the end of the retreat, in the closing, whatever, goodbye, go home talk, I said this one thing that I always say, which is when you go home and if you want to keep meditating, it's very useful to find a meditation instructor. And so I said this to this particular room, and 80% of them looked at me blankly. And then one woman raised her hand and said, "I live in a yurt in Alaska." We don't have any meditation teachers. And another woman said, "I just moved from my job to Bolivia," I think it was, or Uruguay, somewhere in South America. We don't have any meditation teachers that I know of. So I remember going, oh, well, maybe I could do a stopgap for people like this. And so I said, well, give me your email address and I'll send you, a guided meditation once a week, just as if we were sitting down in person. So that's how it started.
Let's say you're at a dinner party and you meet someone who wouldn't know a meditation cushion from a hole in the wall. Mm-hmm. How do you describe it to them? The benefits or why it's even valuable?
Well, that is a great question. And, so many people describe it as stress reduction or as a way to become a better leader. Okay, I think those things are true. But I would call it a transformative spiritual practice that changes the way you are in the world. And, I don't know that I would say this at a dinner party particularly, but meditation, yes, it will help you regulate your blood pressure, and it will lower the stress hormone cortisol. But it also is famously associated with qualities like compassion, wisdom, and confidence. So I would describe meditation as something that gives rise to those 3 qualities, which are also called the 3 qualities of the awakened mind. Of wisdom, which means seeing clearly in the moment. Doesn't mean knowing things or having a lot of information or a sophisticated belief system. It just means being present, really. And compassion doesn't mean feeling sorry for people, or certainly doesn't mean being nice. It means allowing your heart to connect to what is happening and the people around you, whether you like them or you don't. And confidence, the normal word is power, but people get kind of scared by that word. So sometimes I use confidence, but I would say confidence / power are synonyms for genuineness. And I think that if there is something that transforms us, it's to be in the presence of genuineness. And I'm not saying that I am a poster child for genuineness, But I feel like that was the quality that I would use to describe the evening. It was real. It was genuine. It was like what you're talking about, bringing the wisdom down to earth. And I just think that is a pacifying energy, the energy of genuineness. It could also be scary, but generally
Right.
speaking, it's good.
And I think, does that tie in with authenticity, I think?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like, it's refreshing to be around genuineness, authenticity, without an agenda. Now, on one level, everyone has an agenda. Everyone's got to get through the day, got to pay their rent and all this. But quieted down energy.
I love that.
And I have a 15-year-old and 13-year-old. So it's not quiet. It's not quiet. But they make fun of this. But when I start telling them, we do some work with George Mumford, who wrote The Mindful Athlete, and did work with Michael Jordan. And when I start talking basketball, and it can help you achieve in a strong way, in a high level way, then they pay attention. And I think that's kind of the idea of bringing it down to street level. What can someone relate to? And not to digress, but did you hear about that soccer team in the cave?
In Thailand, and how they meditated with their soccer coach, who was an ex-Buddhist monk? Yes.
Mike, unbelievable.
It made me cry. It was so touching.
One of the Navy SEALs passed away, but the next round that they came out of the water, and evidently they were sitting there meditating.
It's crazy. It's amazing, isn't it?
He was a Buddhist monk for a year or two and learned these techniques. So that's actually a very clear example of cave-level wisdom. So to speak.
That's well said.
How doing that practice didn't hurt. That's for sure.
Exactly. It didn't hurt. And it also speaks to the pragmatic value of this practice. It's not like blissing out or transcending to another realm. It's actually about being right here, which is very bracing. So it's if you want to have relationships or talk to people about your ideas, it's good to be right here. So in that sense, it's very practical.
What does fearlessness mean even in this context?
Yeah, I think it's related. And I don't know, I've noticed from my own meditation practice that I develop more fearlessness / confidence / power, whatever it might be. Although it doesn't mean I'm not afraid any less. I'm just as afraid as I always was. But I'm not afraid of being afraid in the way I used to be. And I am able to move through difficult emotions sort of more gracefully on good days. And I think, the first thing, as I was taught in my Buddhist studies, was that a warrior is one who is not afraid of himself. So that is, I think, where fearlessness begins. And we're all so afraid of ourselves, afraid we're not good enough, afraid we're losers, afraid people won't like us, afraid of ourselves, afraid of showing who we really are. And so the first fearlessness, I would say, is to stop being afraid of yourself, which doesn't mean to think you're great or like yourself all the time. It means to be the beautiful, messy, chaotic, brilliant being that you actually are.
I'll take one of those to go, please.
I'll take two.
Can I get a dozen, please?
All right.
No, that's wonderful. If you were a superhero, what would your origin story be?
My origin story? Well, I don't even know what that means. Like, Superman came from...
I didn't either when I first heard it, but, Clark Kent and Kryptonite, and all of a sudden, or the Hulk had this negative thing happen as a kid, and all of a sudden it turned into his power. Another way of asking it was there something that put you on this path? I mean, you didn't, at 8 years old, you didn't want to, you know, in 5th grade, when people ask you what you want to do, you didn't say, I want to start an online community for 20,000 people. You know, was there something early on that led you down this path?
I was almost killed in a
Wow.
car accident, like 25 years ago. And when I say almost killed, I don't mean it. I mean that very, very literally.
Wow.
And I didn't like. It's not like I was like, I went to the light and then I decided to come back. That didn't happen. Although I was in between consciousness for some time. And I also, it's not like, oh, I was a terrible person and then I got hit by a drunk driver and I woke up and I was a great person. It wasn't like that. But that did, I would say, put me on this edge of life and death. There's that imprint of in between life and death. And that just changes a person, I think.
Any street level or any takeaway that you could finish up with, or or a meditation or a story that you like to tell, just to kind of finish up?
Oh. Well, I do like to tell people what I think the biggest misconception is about meditation practice, so they can stop doing it. It's very ordinary. Most people think that in order to meditate, you have to stop thinking. And that is incorrect. You don't have to clear your mind of thought or think happy thoughts. You don't have to interfere with your thoughts at all. They can be exactly as they are, because the practice isn't about wrangling any particular inner state. It's about being with yourself exactly as you are, including your crazy thoughts and your beautiful thoughts and your vicious thoughts and your boring thoughts. And sitting with that, you are actually extending the hand of friendship to yourself, rather than using meditation as self-help. It's actually a way of opening up your heart to yourself, which has tremendous consequence in the rest of your life.
Kind of self-help, but it's self-care. You know.
Yeah, it's self-love and care. Yes, it's self-acceptance and it's friendship.
Friendship's good. I like friendship.
I do too.
Okay, great. How do people find out about your community?
You can just go to my website. It's my name, SusanPiver.com. It's all right there.
All right. Excellent. Okay. So thanks so much, Susan. And that was wonderful. I learned a lot. And thanks so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.